Okay, let's just dive right into this incredibly atmospheric and suspenseful story. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to unpack the chilling, beautifully crafted narrative of The Wind on Haunted Hill. Now, before we even meet our characters, we really have to set the scene. And the scene here is completely dominated by one omnipresent, almost living force, and that's the Himalayan wind. I mean, close your eyes for a second, and just try to imagine that sound echoing through the mountains. Listen to how it's actually described in the text. Hoo, cried the wind as it swept down from the Himalayan snows. It doesn't just blow, right? It hurries over the hills and the passes. It hums and it moans through the tall pines and deodars. This constant, howling wind establishes an immediate, almost suffocating sense of isolation and creeping dread that literally hovers over the entire narrative. And what this does is brilliantly illustrate a stark environmental contrast built into the very geography of the story. On one hand, we have the village. It's safe, sure, but it's vulnerable enough that people actually have to put heavy stones on their tin roofs just to keep them from blowing away. But then, on the other hand, we have Haunted Hill. It is entirely exposed. There is absolutely nothing to stop the wind up there. Just a few stunted trees, some bushes, and the eerie ruins of an old settlement. It's definitely a place meant to be avoided.
Well, that brings us right into part one, the legend and the departure. Let's step into our protagonist's very ordinary world.
So, let's meet the kids at the heart of this tale. First up is Usha, who's about 11 or 12 years old. She's our main protagonist, and since her dad is away in the army, she's stepping up and taking on the responsibility of traveling to the bazaar. Then we've got her younger brother, Suresh, aged 8. He totally wants to go, but he's told he has to stay behind to help their grandfather chop wood. And finally, there's Binya, a slightly older neighbor girl. It's a super grounded, relatable domestic scene, you know? Just 3 kids standing beside a low stone wall spreading clothes out to dry. But here is where things start to get creepy. What makes this setting so chilling is the grandfather's ghost lore, which completely plants the seed of the supernatural way before any storm actually hits. As Usha is getting ready to leave, the kids are talking about the ruins. They talk about how it used to be an English settlement over 100 years ago, but over time it became known as a bad spot, a place that basically acts as a magnet for lightning. According to grandfather's tale, a massive storm once hit a house up there, killing everyone inside, including a brother and sister. And the craziest detail? Grandfather claims to have actually seen the ghosts of those 2 kids playing in the moonlight. I mean, the stage is perfectly set. Let's trace Usha's incredibly normal afternoon just to see how fast things escalate. At 2 p.m., she heads out. An hour later, she's walking through these bright, beautiful fields of yellow mustard, passing right by the crumbling walls and wildflowers of the ruins. By mid-afternoon, she makes it to the bazaar and runs her errands. Late afternoon rolls around and she's having a nice, cozy cup of tea with her Aunt Lakshmi. It honestly isn't until the early evening that she finally notices these dark, ominous clouds starting to gather. Now, the crucial thing to take away here is just how wonderfully ordinary these errands actually are. She's getting soap, matches, spices, sugar, a new pipe stem for the grandfather who tells those ghost stories, an exercise book and some marbles for little Suresh. She even picks up her mom's repaired slippers and treats herself to a pretty amber-colored necklace. It entirely grounds the story in comforting reality. And that's a brilliant narrative trick because it makes the impending supernatural tension feel that much more shocking.
But as we know, that comfort definitely doesn't last. Part 2, Trapped by the Storm.
We get that eerie calm right before the chaos. The wind just completely drops. The sky rapidly darkens with thick, pitch-black, threatening clouds. And then, boom, the heavy rain starts coming down. Keep in mind, it's March, which is the dreaded month for storms in this region. Caught totally off guard without an umbrella, Usha frantically ties a scarf over her head. As night falls with terrifying speed, it hits her. She cannot make it home. She is literally forced to run toward the one place she desperately wanted to avoid, the only available shelter, the haunted ruins. Her ascent into these pitch-black ruins is just pure, unadulterated terror. The wind comes back with a vengeance, growing into this massive force that hums and whistles, physically pushing Usha up the steep path to the brow of the hill. The only way she can even see the ruined building in front of her is by the constant erratic flashes of lightning, so she edges along a wall in the pitch dark, desperate to find a sheltered corner. She reaches out her hand, and she touches something soft and furry.
She gave a startled cry and saw a wild cat leap away. It's such a brilliant, sudden shock, a total jump scare. The feral cat springing away from her hand in the absolute darkness totally spikes the adrenaline, making us realize exactly how hyper-aware and terrified she truly is hiding in these shadows. The sensory overload in this moment is completely overwhelming. Imagine being Usha right now, crouching in a corner under a groaning, violently clattering remnant of a tin roof. She is utterly soaked to the bone, and the deafening sound of the storm is blotting out literally everything else in the world. As massive flashes of blue lightning light up the ruins, where does her mind go? Straight back to her grandfather's story. She's praying the lightning won't strike her, just like it struck those kids 100 years ago.
And then the sky rips wide open. A massive blue flash illuminates the entire ruin. And in that split second of blinding light, Usha sees two small figures, children, crouching right there in the disused fireplace. They look up, they stare back at her. And then snap. Everything plunges right back into complete darkness.
Welcome to Part 3, Shadows in the Ruins. The literal nightmare of her grandfather's story has seemingly come to life.
I mean, seriously, put yourself in Usha's shoes for just a moment. You are trapped in a violent thunderstorm, in a cursed ruin, and you've just seen the ghosts from the local legend staring right at you. Who on earth is hiding in the dark ruins with Usha? What do you even do when the darkness returns and you absolutely know you are not alone? Well, you run. Terrified, Usha scrambles toward a gap in the wall, desperate to just escape out into the storm. But halfway across this pitch-black room, she physically bumps into someone. She screams in blind panic, and the figure in the dark screams right back at her. It's absolute chaos. But then, cutting through all that terror, she hears a familiar sound. She recognizes the voice. It's her little brother, Suresh. Talk about a massive wave of relief washing over her and, honestly, over us too. It wasn't ghosts at all. It was Suresh and Binya who had bravely come looking for her when it got dark. But they aren't safe quite yet. Binya warns them that the path back is completely washed away in the heavy rain. It's way too dangerous to try and travel. So they're forced to ride out this long, freezing, wet storm inside the ruins. But this time is different. They huddle together in the corner. Through the terrifying night, they find warmth and courage in each other. And suddenly, those ruins don't seem quite so forbidding.
Finally, the darkness lifts. Let's head into Part 4, Reunion and the Aftermath.
After hours of this, the rain finally stops. The thunder rolls away into the distance, and a whistling thrush actually begins to sing. Look at the transformative power of perspective and daylight here. The ruins at night were this place of forbidding darkness, groaning tin, and terrifying blue lightning. But the ruins at dawn? The wild plum tree is standing upright again. A bird is singing. The warm morning light reveals it's really just a bunch of broken stone. Having family around completely strips the terror away from Haunted Hill. Or does it? Just as they are walking away, finally feeling safe and grounded, the author sneaks that ambiguity right back in. Usha glances back at the ruins, and she swears she sees a hand waving from behind a crumbling wall. Binya is quick to brush it off, suggesting it's just the top of the plum tree swaying in the breeze. And hey, that's a perfectly logical explanation, right? But then, carried softly on that mountain wind, Usha hears phantom voices calling out, "Goodbye, goodbye." And that leaves us with our final, lingering mystery. After everything she went through, after the completely logical explanation of Suresh and Binya hiding in the fireplace, what did Usha actually hear at the very end? Was it the ghosts of those English children finally at peace saying goodbye? Or was it truly just the lonely, moaning, howling wind of the Himalayas playing tricks on her? The brilliant thing is, the story leaves you entirely in the dark to decide the truth for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to ponder that exact question the very next time you hear the wind blowing outside your window.